Hi, my name is Sarah Piampiano. I am a professional triathlete and I'm also a Cercacor ambassador. I'm here to talk to you today a little bit about the Cercacor device, what I use it for, how to use it, and also some of the ways that you can track trends and really use the device to help with your training and your recovery. So in terms of how I use the Cercacor device, for me, the majority of the time I'm using it to track my recovery, whether it be day-to-day in my training or after a big race like an Ironman where it takes me sometimes up to a month and sometimes even more, but can take me a really long time to recover. I use the device to monitor what my body is telling me and also kind of taking into account how I'm feeling generally, but I really use it as a benchmark to know when it's time to push again. Similarly, in my day-to-day training, I use it as kind of a good check to see how recovered I am, particularly if I start to feel like I'm heading down into a period of fatigue and, we don't necessarily want me to be in that place. We'll know that it's time to pull back versus push through, or sometimes I am supposed to be there and we'll push through, but it's just a really good check for me and lets me know sort of how my body is responding to training. It's also a really good tool for checking your fitness progression and other things like hydration. So this is the device right here. It's a non-invasive device. For me, I tend to use it in the morning and in the evening. So first thing when I wake up and the last thing before I go to bed, I just throw it on my finger. It takes about 60 seconds. It's really easy, and then it pops up using your phone. There's an app. It pops up with your measurements. So sometimes I use it in the middle of the day. One of the great things about this device is it can actually give you a reading of your hydration levels. And so sometimes during either intense periods of training, or like right now I'm in Kansas, I'm in a really hot and humid environment for one of my training blocks as I get ready for the World Championships. After big days of training, I will take a reading or a measurement kind of either in the middle of the day or the end of the day to see how my hydration is. For me, I find that my hydration levels really impact how I perform on a day-to-day basis, and so it's important for me to try to be on top of that. So as I said, this is the device. On your phone, there's an app called the Ember app. And to take a reading, all you do is you open up the app, you put this on your finger. You can either put it on your pinky finger. I tend to use my ring finger. And then you want to always try to be in the same position. So for me, typically, because I take it in the morning and at night before I go to bed, I'll be in bed, usually in a seated position. But it's really important to try to always assume the same position, because if you're in different positions, it can impact the readings a bit. Right, for the purposes of this video, I'm sitting in a chair, but normally I'd be sitting in my bed. Once you have the app open, it will usually be connected to the device. You can see it says ready, start. And all you do is you press start. And it starts up the Ember device. The reading usually takes about 60 seconds. And so the idea is that you want to sit as still as possible while it takes the reading. You can see it sort of counting down. Once it starts to take the reading, you'll see that it pops up with a whole bunch of different measurements. So you can test your hemoglobin, you can test your pulse rate, you can test your oxygen content, you can test your Pleth variability index, which is your hydration levels, your respiratory rate, your pulse rate variability, which is similar to heart rate variability, your oxygen saturation. There's a number of different things that you can test. The other thing I really like is the CO levels, which is actually a measurement of how polluted the air is on a particular day. And so, for example, I know that there were a bunch of athletes around the Olympics in Beijing who used the CO number to be able to determine whether or not they're going to train outside while they're in Beijing or not on any given day, because it was so important. So I've been going for about a minute, and you can see that all of my numbers have popped up. Once the numbers have popped up, you press capture, and it captures my numbers. At that point, you fill in a number of different metrics. You fill in your activity. So the options are first of day, pre-workout, between sets, post-workout, resting, pre-hydration, post-hydration, and end of day. So I will put that I'm resting right now because I am after one of my sessions. I'll select that. Pain scale, it's asks you to just kind of give a gauge of how your body is feeling in general. I'm actually feeling pretty good today, so I'll put no pain. An emotional state. So as many of you know, when you start to get tired or run down or overtrained or just really start to feel the fatigue, sometimes your emotional state can vary. And you go from being in a place of confidence or happiness or just really at ease to feeling either stressed out or anxious or tired or irritable. So there's a whole range of things that you can choose. There's powerful, joyful, peaceful, scared, mad, and sad. And then within each one, there's a whole other range of options that you can choose. So today I'm feeling pretty happy, so I'll choose joyful. And I'm going to say that I'm optimistic. Once you've chosen that, you can close it out and your reading is taken. So once you've done the reading, you can actually go into the app and you go into history, which is at the bottom. And here you can see that there's the option to look at the analysis of so much stuff. You can go into the results table, which is every single day that you've taken a reading, or every single time you've taken a reading, you can just look at each reading individually. You could go into a seasonal graph, and that looks at seasonal trends. And one of the cool things is if you click in here, you can choose so many different options. You could choose, for example, if I want to look at my pulse rate and I just want to look at first of day, which is great. And then let's just say I want to look at my pulse rate from the beginning of the year until now. Submit. That looks at my seasonal pulse rate variations from the date range that I put in, which was the beginning of January until now. And so it can see sort of either changes in fitness or if you have allergies, how that impacts things. So that's a great one. And then there's also this trend graph, which is really, really great to use. And again, you could have a number of different parameters. It can be multi-parameter. You can choose any type of thing. You can choose all the data. You could choose first of day. You could see how you're reacting just between sets. You can choose any of the parameters, respiratory rate, SpO2, pulse rate variability. You can set your date parameters, and it will give you the trends. So it's super helpful from that perspective. And then also if you're training at altitude, one of the great things about this device is it helps you learn when you're adapting to changes in altitude. And so they have elevation graph trends that can be really helpful. So, again, it takes about a minute to get a reading. So 2 minutes out of your day, every day, you can do more if you feel like it, but it's just so helpful in terms of really getting a sense of how your body's recovering, how your body's absorbing load, and I guess how you're adapting and adjusting to either training load or elevation or heat or any of the various adaptations that you might have going through a training block. So I hope that was helpful, and I would definitely recommend, particularly if you're an endurance athlete or just an athlete in general, whether you're amateur or high-level elite athlete or professional athlete, to get one of these because it can be really instrumental in your performance.